to October, the season of spooky, and the first day of Wytchtober, my self-inflicted challenge where I'll be revealing a little bit of my dark fantasy world, Wytchborne. So let's jump in. Today we are going to be focusing on the prompt knight. Not knight, like with metal, and no, not like the 80s rock band, like with swords and stuff. Yeah, like that, but no. Anyway. The continent of Vytchtober is the largest civilization in Wytchborne, and one of the greatest concentrations of intersecting ley lines of magic from the Netherplane. This magical energy attracted countless mages who sought to unlock the secrets of the Nether Realms. For a time, mages held positions of some power, usually as court wizards or advisors to feudal kingdoms, kept in these roles not for lack of power, but for a lack of resources, as it takes a lot of time and effort to study and understand magic. But in the second millennium, after a group of mages unified the wizards across the continents and overthrew the kingdom of man, they established themselves as the Imperium of Mages, a new ruling class of families and dictates which governed the continent of Vytchtober for centuries. Mages who once lived in small schools and towers now controlled keeps and lands. They established great houses and ruled with their magical prowess. But as more mage houses rose to power, so too did the conflicts between them. This sparked a need for elite bodyguards and assassins. While many mages relied on other spellcasters for protection, the Knights of Kraidagor emerged as a new force, contracted by the great Imperator Mage himself. These weren't your typical medieval knights. The Kraidagorians were highly trained, brutally efficient killers. One Kraidagorian knight could replace an entire unit of Shard Sentinel bodyguards. Or, in some cases, a handful of Kraidagorians could topple a rival mage house. But what made these knights so unique? For generations, their secrets were hidden in the frozen plains of Kraidagor. The only thing known to the Imperium was that these knights were immune to magic, and facing a Kraidagorian in combat was a death sentence. A Kraidagorian knight is built, not born. Young male human subjects were selected by a Steelcaller, a woman who spent her entire life in the mountains of Kraidagor. Her selections were brought to the Forge, the main keep of Kraidagor. There they are tested individually and uniquely for their aptitude for combating magic. Some young boys were put at the bottom of a well where they must concentrate on their breathing until the well is filled with rainwater. Others must spend weeks in the fighting pits being pummeled over and over again in pitch blackness until they can fight without being hit. Others were subjugated to hallucinogenic psychotropics and had to balance themselves on a narrow bridge across a cliffside. Those that survived became knights. Those that didn't were buried at the borders of Kraidagor. The final test for all Kraidagorians is the Seal of Sorite. Anti-magic stone is liquefied and infused into their bodies, branding them with the Mark of Kraidagor. This excruciating process grants them enhanced speed, agility, and resilience, while also making them resistant to magic, especially spells that aim to transform or control their body or mind. Upon passing the final trial, a Kraidagorian receives their final gift from their Steelcaller, a dwarven steel weapon embedded with a red gem of pure sorite, allowing them to slice through spells and destroy their enemies. Daiken, who I'm drawing here, is a unique case. While he went through all the usual training and tests that are required to become a knight, he went through them at a much younger age than normal. He was inducted into the Forge during the Great Mage War, where the Kraidagorians betrayed their masters and rose up with mankind to eventually defeat the great houses of the Imperium. More on that in another video, I promise. Daiken was inducted as a knight at the age of 8, whereas the average knight started his training at age 13. For 6 years, Daiken was raised partially by the knights, who tested him with all manners of trials to see if the small, sickly boy would break. But Daiken would always emerge from the tests with a smirk, and maybe a broken limb or two. It was not clear whether the young boy would be ever accepted by the knights. After all, it was said that he was the child of a witch and raised in the Coven of Groves. He was even marked with a witch sign on his left arm. Surely his Steelcaller would not grant him the rank of knight, but at the age of 13, Daiken was given his blade and was put in the final assault of the Imperium's final great houses. There's much that happened to Daiken in the final years of the war and the years of peace that followed, but that'll all be covered in other stories to come. After the fall of the Imperium, Kraidagor stepped down from power and allowed the kingdoms of man to rule once again. They now served as peacekeepers, watching over mages to ensure they don't repeat history. Many Kraidagorian knights are stationed across the kingdoms of Vytchtober, keeping an eye on the few mages who still serve the new order of man. Daiken, however, was never given a post or assignment. Instead, he roams the continent as a freelance knight, using his knowledge of both witchcraft and magic to prevent conflict where he can. Though he won't hesitate to cut down anyone who threatens humanity, Daiken often finds ways to solve problems without bloodshed. After all, even he has been affected by magic and its strange influences. Even with his body infused with sorite, Daiken's witch sign still allows him some small uses of magic. Though his knowledge is limited to basic cantrips and a few hexes, he does however have one power that seems to bypass the anti-magic metal altogether. A primal curse that seems to linger in the dark ichor that is his blood, manifesting itself only when Daiken is in peril, but that's yet another mystery to leave for another story. As for this illustration, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I didn't expect it to turn out into a full-blown mock cover, but I love the motion and energy of it, so I think I'll call this one finished. Thanks for watching, and be sure to keep an eye out for tomorrow's Wytchtober post. Follow me on my socials and subscribe so you don't miss any lore or artwork for this spooky season. Until next time, I'll see you then. Now go make something awesome.